Voters in Manchester will be asked to weigh in on whether or not they think town officials should explore entering into a purchase agreement with the owners of the rail trail, a 1.6-mile long pathway that largely traces a former railroad line that crosses through the town from the North Road to the town's recreation park. An article in the Town Warning for March Town Meeting asks if voters think the town should eventually acquire the trail, contingent upon obtaining funding for the purchase and improvements, permitting, and easements to develop the trail as a public asset. The dollar amount that has been discussed in recent Select Board meetings between the trail's owners and the Select Board is about $200,000 for the trail, with the trail's owners offering to fundraise about $80,000 of that, leaving the town to come up with the balance of $120,000, plus interest charges. The trail has been the subject of much debate ever since the owners, who formed an entity known as the Old Railroad Bed LLC, purchased the trail from the previous owners who had inherited the railroad line that formerly belonged to the Manchester, Dorset, and Granville Railroad, which went out of business in the 1930s. Neighboring property owners have raised concerns about privacy, and an earlier effort to have the town acquire the trail foundered when federal funds to defray part of the cost of the purchase and maintenance didn't work out. But now the issue has returned, and the trail has been opened, sort of, and used by hikers, joggers, and bikers since last summer. We talked with the town manager, John O'Keefe, and 3 members of the ownership group to get their perspectives on the next steps.
Right now it's non-binding. We'd still need the funding from town meeting to move ahead. But this really gives us 2 things. One, it gives us a real pull on what the community is thinking as far as the rail trail. And secondly, it gives us both the mandate and the time to figure out answers to the challenges that we see with the trail. As you remember from the select board meeting, the town staff put together about an 8-page memo detailing the current conditions and then some of the concerns that we have as far as the current construction of the trail and how, for example, ADA would influence the construction of the trail if it became public. One thing, for example, is the bridge rails are 46 to 47 inches wide, and in order to meet ADA, they need to be 48 inches. And then there's a slew of other ADA issues that seems like they could be overcome. We just need a little bit more time to look at those. I think the overall goal is to make sure that if the town buys the trail, that we know what we're buying. And of course, there's also 2 easements that are necessary. One is across the gravel pit owned by John Peckham, and the second one is actually less challenging, but the trail also crosses the land of Riley Rink. And even though Riley Rink is a not-for-profit, a local organization, we'd still, if we're going to buy the northern part of the trail, we still need long-term assurances that we can cross that land to connect the northern part to the rec park. Otherwise, we're buying a trail that doesn't, we're buying a short trail that doesn't connect to the rest of our network.
So the maintenance down the road is a concern. I would assume the fact you said the narrow width of those bridges and I mean that's one factor in your thinking then about, or the select board's thinking about, is this a good idea or not?
The bridges, in order for us to really have a level of convenience in maintaining the trails, the bridges have to be at least 80 inches wide to get across some of our smaller pieces of equipment. Otherwise, we'll have to access the northern part of the trail through North Road, which would be less than ideal. Year-to-year maintenance, Jeff Williams is the director of Public Works, and I think it's about $5,000 a year to maintain the trail, not counting town labor and town equipment, but just the real hard costs, gravel, bridge repairs, tree trimming, that kind of stuff. It doesn't take into account, for example, both the fact that we would use the town roadside mower to mow the sides of the trail twice a year. It doesn't take into account that person's time, the diesel associated with that, or the time on the equipment. But about $5,000 a year to maintain the actual trail, barring obviously something catastrophic.
Then we asked Bill Drunzik and Robin and Amy Werner of the Old Railroad Bed about their hopes for where this goes next.
Well, I would have liked let's say, a more definitive outcome, but under the circumstances, we are pleased, or I am pleased, to be on the ballot and to get a firm measure of the town's support for this on moving forward. And then I believe that based on what that outcome is, which I believe will be fairly substantial in favor of moving forward, I think that will give both the select board and town management necessary motivation to move this forward quickly.
We're pleased that we're making some progress. As Bill alluded to, we were hoping for a few more hard points, but I think the critical thing would be to get to have an article that people can get behind, people can accept, and find some enthusiasm for, and I think we'll get a good turnout for it. I think that'll pave the way to the next move. We've got some issues that have to be resolved, and I think this article is fair in that sense that it's asking us to resolve those things before we move forward. So that's good. But I think the important thing is that it's an article that people can accept. They'll be happy with, and I think we will get a good favorable vote for it.
Now, is your proposal still to sell the rail trail to the town for $200,000, $80,000 of which you would fundraise yourselves? So the net total would be $120,000 plus what, a 3% interest rate that would be payable over, I think, 4 years, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that was our proposal. And of course, there are no specific financial conditions that are part of this warning article. It clearly says for the town and the owners to negotiate it. I don't believe we have any reason at this point to deviate from that proposal if we can bring it to the voters in the fairly near future.
Mind that the owners have in that proposal that we have out there, the owners are donating the purchase price of the property, which is $40,000 to begin with. We're taking that right off the top of how much we expect to get back. Basically, what we need to get back is the money for the improvements that we've made. But the owners are donating $40,000. The owners have offered to raise $80,000 in donations. That's $120,000 that we're putting into the pot.
So basically, the original figure is 240 minus the 40 we gave and the 80 we're going to raise. And what I'd like to say about the article is there's a good thing in there that it says that the town is setting up a fund so that we can raise donations. We didn't have that before. So instead of what we had proposed at the first meeting, we were going to raise 80,000 by July 1st. This kind of opens the door if it takes, longer than July. So that's a good point for us. Gives us a little bit more time.
The warning on the article is an advisory and non-binding one, but the eventual outcome of the vote, pro or con, will give town officials a signal as to the town-wide sentiment on the matter. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.